In the headlines, same religion ticket debate rages as deadline for submission of candidates inches closer. House of Representatives to override President Buhari on statutory delegates in the Electoral Act. Relatives of abducted passengers of Abuja-Kaduna train lament failing health of remaining captives. And on the foreign scene, Brazil police find remains as suspects confess to crime. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Update. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Hello and welcome once again. Plateau State Governor and Chairman in Northern Governors Forum, Simon Lalong, has added his voice to the ongoing debate on same religion ticket in the 2023 presidential race, saying one's faith is not a qualification to be running mate. Lalong, in an exclusive interview with Trust TV, said if he is in the race to be an APC presidential running mate, his faith should not be a prerequisite. He also gives reasons why northern governors decided power should shift to the southern part of the country.
I am not even, if I'm aspiring to be the vice president, I've told you, I am not aspiring because it is my faith. I'm aspiring because I am qualified. First, that's it. Because when you are measuring that kind of thing, first you look at people who are qualified to go in. When we pick them, we pick 5 to, we didn't talk about religion, yes, because we said they should move in. But then in politics, there's always a tradition. And when people start to believe in that kind of tradition, the moment you deny them that tradition, it means that you are already excluding them from politics. I take that from where I came from, Plateau. I realized that some of this crisis, everything that was happening was because of exclusion. People believed that they were excluded. No matter in politics, you talk about the majority having their say, having their way, while the minority must give them opportunity to have a say. Once you have that, you have completely peace in your place. What are we talking about today? We are talking about peaceful federation. We are talking about a progressive federation in crisis. Already we are in crisis. How to manage the crisis. It's not only winning the election, you are also going to win the election and thinking of governing the nation. I must say the epic and I think the final position was taken during this convention without any fear of favor, because that has been our position, that we look at the objectives, we look at it objectively, that this country belongs to all of us.
Watch out for that full interview on the program 30 Minutes, which airs on Monday on Trust TV. Meanwhile, Chief Whip of the Senate, Senator Orji Uzor Kalu, has proposed a Muslim ticket as a critical factor for the All Progressives Congress APC to win the presidential election in 2023. He expressed belief that the ruling party may lose the election if it fails to go for the option of a Muslim presidential ticket, considering the current situation it has found itself. Senator Kalu made a remark on Wednesday in an interview with journalists at the National Assembly complex in Abuja. The Chief Whip, who argued that it was impossible for a southern minority Muslim and a northern minority Christian to win a presidential election in Nigeria, and said the APC should be concerned about winning than the religious affiliation of its vice presidential candidate.
The wife is a senior pastor in a Pentecostal church. I will go Muslim ticket. The most important thing is for the party to win. It's not, we should stop all this rubbish about whether you put a Christian there. After all, if we win, already the wife is a pastor. They have been living for over 40, 50 something years together. I've known them this far. So why do you want to blame about, she's already like a deputy president. If I'm to say, I'm a Catholic. I'm saying my opinion. This is Orji Kalu's opinion. You cannot deny me my opinion. But you can also play Christian ticket, depending on the scenario. Because if we don't play Muslim, we're in trouble. We will not win it will be most difficult to win the election. Because the only thing left for Ahmed Tinubu today is to play Muslim.
And still talking politics, as presidential candidates of the political parties and party officials continue to scout for running mates ahead of the June 17th deadline as stipulated by the Independent National Electoral Commission, controversies are trailing the discourse. Issues around religion practiced by those touted as running mates to presidential candidates are top on the discourse from almost every quarter. Trust TV's Aisha Salihu in this report speaks to the electorate on what qualities a running mate for the presidential candidate under any of the political parties should possess. The report.
With the special conventions of the major political parties where presidential aspirants were elected over, attention has now shifted to selecting running mates for the flag bearers. This has ushered the parties into another round of political intrigues, calculations and permutations as each party is considering how to balance the religious and regional divides in a way that would help it win the general election in 2023. Spokesman of the All Progressives Congress APC national stakeholders, Aliyu Audu, implored the ruling party to narrow its search for a running mate to the party's presidential flag bearer Ahmed Bola Tinubu to a Christian from the north. However, youth under the auspices of the Northeast APC Youth Stakeholders Forum insist on special consideration for the zone in choosing a vice presidential candidate. Meanwhile, Christian youth in Nigeria have declared that they will vote against any political party that fills a Muslim ticket in the 2023 presidential election. On the part of some electorates, the controversy around the religion of the running mates should not be an issue, noting that a combination of credible candidates who will give the country effective leadership should be considered first.
What I want to say is this. I want Nigerians to know that these Muslim tickets, Christian tickets, is what the political elites are using to divide, the youth, and that's what they're using to divide Nigerians so that we'll be fighting themselves, so that they have, make a way for themselves to be there. It's not business as usual. Nigerians are now wise. We don't care whether it's Muslim or Christian. What Nigerians and the youth are talking about now is credible candidates that will be there for the masses.
It's about individual. You want to look at the antecedents of their past, or what they have done. What does religion have to do with what is on the ground? We need performance. We really need performance.
I would suggest to pick a Muslim and Christian. Let them go to there and walk. And we must tell them, let them go there because of the citizen, because of the interests of the masses. It's not because of their personal interests.
This position does not go down well with others who believe that same religion for candidates and their running mates has a huge role to play in the outcome of the election.
I advise them to go to the same religion. At least both of them can put heads together and work for the betterment of the country. They are to serve the Nigerians. If they are the same religion or the same tribe, they can easily communicate to each other. What you need is the understanding.
The People's Democratic Party and Labour Party, through their leaders, have declared that their presidential candidates will choose a competent Christian from the south and a competent Muslim from the north, respectively, for regional and religious balance. The Independent National Electoral Commission has issued a fresh warning to the political parties that the Friday, June 17th deadline for the submission of the names of candidates and their running mates is sacrosanct. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And members of the House of Representatives have called for a veto to overrule President Muhammadu Buhari on Section 84, subsection 8, which he has refused to assent to by invoking Section 58. The federal lawmakers made this call at plenary on Wednesday after many lawmakers lost their seats due to the president not assenting to the electoral amendment by both chambers of the National Assembly. The report.
The Deputy Minority Leader, Toby Okechukwu, raised the motion for a veto on Section 84, subsection 8, following the poor showing of members of both chambers at the National Assembly at the just concluded primaries. He said the Electoral Act is presently practiced without the amendments painstakingly made by lawmakers has been weaponized and used against democracy, stating that the highest bidders have taken advantage to hijack the process.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, something is wrong in an environment, in an institution, where the two leaders of the Senate would have to cross to other parties because of an inherent inclement condition. Anything that occasions it, anything that warrants it, if it is our electoral act, if it is our politics, if it is the environment where we operate, we need to retool. And like you said, we got to do a better work and we have to fight on. For me, it is just a battle that is lost. The war is on, and that we should go ahead to make sure that that law is retooled, made clear, and if it requires this parliament to take action to override what has not been signed, we should be willing to do so.
The motion was supported by Representative Ben Igbakba, who complained that lawmakers were called from break to debate the section only for the president to abandon it to attend to other assignments. He called for the activation of Section 58, which gave the parliament powers to veto the president should he refuse to sign any bill transmitted by the National Assembly.
We cannot continue to act as if we are under the executive arm of government. This constitution gave us the powers, just like it gave to them. We must wake up as a parliament where we pass our laws and we are sure that we have done the right thing. We should start overriding Mr. President, because this is just the beginning. Today, NDDC Act is in force because the parliament, which we are part of, did it. Why are we afraid? Mr. President has not committed any offense. What he has done is the rule of law and the constitution. And I believe by the time we do our own, by overriding his veto, we will not have committed any offense. We will be working according to the constitution and the rule of law.
While ruling on the motion, the Speaker listed all the conditions under which lawmakers could override a veto successfully. He said it is not automatic to override the president, stating that it can only happen if the House is convinced it will get the two-thirds majority of the House is required by law.
But for us to override, I believe we require two-thirds majority. And it cannot be by voice vote, neither can it be by way of signatures, unless, of course, you have enough two-thirds by signature. So what I would suggest is that you bring the application, a formal motion or notice, so perhaps tomorrow or whenever you are able to do that, and then we'll determine whether or not this House is ready to override or not. I think that's the way to go. That's the proper procedure. And I appreciate your comments. And I believe you're talking about the provision on statutory delegates, which Honorable Toby alluded to earlier. I believe that's the provision you're talking about. So we'll go ahead. You can file your motion, and hopefully we'll be able to list it tomorrow or whenever the calendar permits.
Representative Igbakba is expected to bring the motion to substantiate the complaints raised when plenary resumes on Thursday.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Senate has asked security agencies in the country to improve on their intelligence gathering in order to avert any attack on citizens. The Senate at Wednesday's plenary also condemned the recent attack on St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, Ondo State, where scores of worshippers were killed. The report.
This call by the Senate is sequel to the consideration of a motion tagged Killing of Worshippers in Owo, Ondo State, sponsored by Senator Ajayi Boroface. Boroface, in his presentation, noted with deep concern the attack on worshippers on Sunday, 5th June 2022, at St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, Ondo State. 40 worshippers were killed during the attack, while about 80 are left with varying degrees of vital injuries. The lawmaker expressed the fear that such attack could lead to inter-religious conflict and ethnic war in the country.
Recommittal of the Environmental Health Officer Registration ETC Act 2002, Amendment B 2022 to the Committee of the Whole. The Senate recalls that the Environmental Health Officers Registration Act 2002, Amendment Bill 2022 was passed by the National Assembly and was transmitted to the President for assent. Observes that some fundamental issues which require fresh legislative action by both chambers of the National Assembly emerged after a critical analysis of the bill by Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief. Aware that a technical committee of the Senate and House Representatives and Directorate of Legal Services met and worked on the bill, relying on Order 1B and Order 52C of Senate Standing Order 2022 as amended. Accordingly, rescind the decision on the bill as passed and recommit same to the Committee of the Whole for consideration and passage.
The Senate has then asked the relevant agencies to intensify efforts to investigate the matter with the aim of bringing perpetrators to book. They are also to deploy drones and helicopters to monitor forests and ungoverned areas in Nigeria to identify illegal camps of armed bandits across the country.
And at least 2 people have been killed and 3 others injured in an attack in a village in Gusau local government area of Zamfara state. The early morning attack threw the village into confusion as people scampered for safety. A resident of the village, Malam Biliamina Hamisu, said it was a fierce battle between the military and the gunmen who attempted to infiltrate a town through a nearby village. In a telephone interview with Trust TV, Biliamina narrates the encounter with the attackers and called on government to address the incessant attack on innocent and unarmed civilians.
The incident happened in the morning when the villagers were preparing for work. I was ready for work when I started hearing sound of gunfire from outside the village. Whenever such happens, our vigilante usually follow up to check what it is. When they did, they saw some armed men trying to infiltrate the village. The villagers engaged them in a gun battle until they left our village. They later regrouped and launched another attack where they shot 2 people who were working on their farms. A member of the vigilante was also shot in the exchange of fire, but soldiers later came to rescue the vigilantes and the attackers later fled. In the ensuing crisis, 5 people were shot, 2 were killed, the other 3 are now receiving treatment in the hospital. We are traumatized. People can no longer go about their normal businesses. The security situation is scary. Women and children are running away from their homes. School and other businesses are all shut down due to the attack. This is not the first time such attack is happening. We face this kind of attack almost on a weekly basis. There are no security operatives in my village to ascertain There are no security operatives in my village to contain the incessant attacks on innocent and unarmed civilians. So many villagers have left the town because of such attack. Some of us are still here because we have nowhere to go.
You are watching Trust TV News Update. And still to come after the break, how displaced person finds love despite insecurity. Details of this and more after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV News Update. Now a look at our top stories. Plateau State Governor says he is qualified to be APC presidential running mate, not because of his faith. And House of Representatives to override President Buhari on statutory delegates in Electoral Act. And in other news, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has sued the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, for suspending all union activities across the state in higher institutions. The union, in a suit filed before the National Industrial Court in Benin by Ambrose Ali University chapter of the suspension, said it is unconstitutional, illegal, null and void, and ultraviolates the powers of the defendants. Other defendants in the suit are the Edo State Government and Attorney General and the Commissioner of Justice. No date has been fixed for the hearing of the suit. The government directed the management of state-owned institutions to implement a no-work, no-pay policy and declare vacant and advertise the position of any staff member that refuses to resume work. Rising insecurity in the northwestern part of Nigeria has displaced thousands of families from their villages. In states like Katsina, uncompleted buildings have been turned to makeshift camps for victims that are trying to find refuge in safer communities. Jamil Mabe reports as a struggling mother and whose daughter found love while in a makeshift IDP camp where they thought hope was completely gone. A report.
Insecurity situation in northwest Nigeria is fueling the fastest growing displacement crisis in the country. According to United Nations Refugee Agency, over 1,900 people were displaced in just a span of 6 days, a situation that is causing apprehension among stakeholders. What is more worrisome is that these people do not have anywhere to go but to seek shelter in uncompleted buildings in safer communities and depend on the benevolence of the society to survive. Despite these hardships, young girls who thought there is no hope for them to have a normal life in such places are opening their hearts for love, the greatest of all gifts. Halima, who 2 years ago miraculously escaped from Kukar Babangida along Jibia local government axis with her 7 children, after incessant attacks by bandits.
I can never forget what happened to us that day. Bandits chased us away from our homes. The first time they attempted to enter our village, they couldn't succeed. The second time, my neighbor knocked at my door and informed us that bandits have entered. I took one of my daughters, who is late now, to a nearby bush. I came back and took the second one, where we hid. Later, they informed us that they have kidnapped their target victim.
Is hardly getting by as she prepared the first and the only meal for her children for that day. Her heart heavy with thoughts of where will the next meal come from.
We cook once a day. We eat it in the morning, afternoon, and night until God provides us with one.
Back in the village, Halima owned a small business. After the attack, she lost everything. Their life disrupted and wondered if her children will ever live a normal life. But that situation changed as love found one of her daughters in the place they least expected.
She went for a wedding after the event has finished. The groom's friends brought her back. That was when he met Khadija and professed his love due to her sense of maturity and kindness.
As every mother would for her daughter. But the burden that comes with marrying out a daughter is Halima's greatest nightmare.
The next day he came to the house, which I told him her father was not around. I got to bed thinking about my daughter's marriage. It's quite challenging considering my predicament. The date have been fixed. The thought of what to give her has been troubling me. We don't have anything.
I is still dependent on the society to assist her, as she is caught between the task of putting food on the table and the huge burden of marrying out her daughter. Jamil Mabay, Trust TV News, Katsina.
And now look at the foreign scene, where Brazilian police have found human remains in their search for missing British journalist Dom Phillips and Brazilian indigenous expert Bruno Pereira, after a suspect confessed to killing them in the Amazon rainforest and took investigators to where the bodies were buried. Brazilian police detective Eduardo Fontes said the suspect, a fisherman who had reportedly clashed with Pereira over his efforts to combat illegal fishing in indigenous territory, led police to a remote burial site where the remains were unearthed. Brazil's Justice Minister said earlier on Wednesday that the human remains will be submitted to forensics. And that wraps up Trust TV News Update for this hour. For more news, you can subscribe and follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for watching.